What unsolved mystery gives you the creepies? Story 1. The disappearance of the Eileen Moore lighthouse keepers. The scene found by the people that went to check why there was no response was quite standard yet slightly off. 2 of the 3 waterproof jackets were missing. In the kitchen they found pretty much everything normal except that one chair laying on the floor, and there was still a meal on a table, suggesting that maybe they left in a hurry. The lightkeepers were nowhere. The only clues that were gathered came from the lighthouse's log. The entries the last few days there were written were weird. Severe winds, the likes of which I've never seen before in 20 years. The log attendant, Thomas Marshall, wrote also noticed that James Ducat, the principal keeper, had been very quiet, and that the third assistant, William MacArthur, had been crying. What is strange about the last thing is that William MacArthur was a seasoned mariner and was known on the Scottish mainland as a tough guy. Storm shouldn't have been a big deal. Entries the day later stated that the storm was still raging even worse than before, and that the lighthouse keepers had been praying for it to stop. By the way, the lighthouse was 150 feet above sea level, and not only they should have been perfectly safe, but they should have known that. They were very experienced. The thing is that no storms were reported in the whole area on any of the days close to the entries. The weather was calm. The final log entry was made the day after. It said, "Storm ended, sea calm, God is over all." Story 2. The monster with 21 faces. In the 1980s, over a period of 17 months, Japan was held in the grip of terror by just such a powerful criminal force. The case would turn the country on its head, push police to their limits, dispel the notion that Japan was a completely safe place, and 30 years later remains just as unsolved and mysterious as it has ever been. This is the story of the notorious monster with 21 faces, an organization led by an enigmatic figure which proved to be just as untouchable and elusive as any supervillain, which led the police on an unprecedented manhunt and whirlwind investigation for a crime they would never get to the bottom of, and which has gone on to become one of the most puzzling unsolved crimes in Japanese history. Story 3. Tamam Shud, or Somerton Man. Just really bizarre and creepy. It's got an X-Files vibe to it. A well-dressed, athletic guy is found dead leaning against a seawall on an Australian beach. No cause of death is discovered despite the autopsy. No ID, no labels on any of his clothes, nothing to identify him, but a scrap of printed paper saying Taman Shud found in his pocket. No one is reported missing. Later, a briefcase is found in a locker at a train station attributed to him, with a few clothes marked T. Keen. No one named that is found missing. When the info about the note is released, one of the locals finds an odd book in the back seat of his car in the area that the man died in. The piece of paper matches the torn out bit in the book. In the book, there is a very odd cipher that no one has been able to decode since, and a phone number. Blood pooling in the body suggests he didn't die with his head propped against the wall as he was found. A half-smoked cigarette fell out of his mouth, but if he died in a different position, it would be a little odd. Body was embalmed and put on display for 6 months and received a lot of attention, but no one can remember having seen him. No family or anyone knowing him have ever been found. Tamam Shud roughly means the end times. Story 4. When I was growing up, my yard was about 2 acres large, completely flat and treeless with the house in the middle. One night it snowed overnight, and I went out into the yard the next morning. The freshly fallen snow was pristine, except for one single very large hoof print in the middle of the yard. Not even part of a pair, just a single large hoof print. I never understood how it got there. Was the print all the way to the ground, like you could see the ground under it? It could have been something like a cracked sewage line or something else that would heat the ground up from below. But that also mean that it would probably happen more than once. If it was a softer but still able to be seen, owls going after something like mice or rabbits will cause a horseshoe-looking print with their wings, and if the prey took a struggle, it could look deeper. If it happened early enough in the night, with snow falling, then the snow would distort the feather marks and hide the blood. Just theories though. Hope Satan doesn't come looking for you now that you've exposed him. Story 5. Isdalskvinnen and Kambomannen. 2 murder cases in Norway that happened around the 70s, where they found the victims burned or bruised far into the wilderness. All brand tags were removed from their clothing and there was no way to identify the bodies. No one matching their outlook was ever reported missing, and upon further police investigations, it was believed that they were spies during the Cold War. Both cases get weirder the more you study them, and Norwegian police officials are still, to this day, asking for tips that could help identify the victims. Story 6. There may be an assassin currently targeting young men in their early 20s in the Boston area. They go missing after a night drinking and end up in the Charles with a puncture wound from a needle. The police haven't released any other details, and this has been going on for years. Here's the link to the news article mentioning the bodies. As for the needle mark, I'm currently going to school in the Boston area for criminal justice, and a lot of my professors are Boston police or prosecutors, and they often hint at foul play, and one time in class, a Boston police officer slipped the mention of a needle mark in most cases. I know that's not the most reliable source of info, but that's all I got. He also mentioned the police are keeping most of the details from these cases from the public so they don't start a panic and that it won't interfere with their investigation. Story 7. Lars Matank. People disappearing isn't that weird, but whatever compelled his guide to sprint out of an airport terminal, over a barbed wire fence and into the woods to never be seen. No credible sightings even, again is spooky. No history of mental illness, no mental illness, but he did suffer head trauma. Right before the incident, after getting into a fight, wasn't allowed to fly home because of a ruptured eardrum, so he stayed behind while all his friends flew home. His family received paranoid calls from him, where he claimed someone was following him. Surveillance cameras show him walking normally to the airport once he was allowed to fly again, but fleeing for no apparent reason afterward. It's possible the head trauma was much worse than thought, and he suffered paranoid delusions because of it. Story 8. Me and a friend were exploring in a national park close to where we live. We came across this really strange section of trees that was so dense you couldn't see the sky, and the branches all seemed tangled together to create a sort of natural ceiling. We went in at about 2 p.m. Somewhere inside this strange area, we came across an old burial ground with a plaque that talked about the natives who were ended by disease and buried here. We stuck around for maybe 30 minutes max and left. When we got out of the strange thicket of trees, it was pitch black outside. And this is in northern Canada, where it doesn't get dark for a very long time in the summer. We ran back to our car and checked the time, and it was 1:20 in the morning. We had lots of missed calls from worried family, but to this day no one believes us. Story 9. There was this mystery show where they did 2 fake stories and 1 real one. They would reveal the true story at the end of the show. One episode had a story where a child was afraid of his closet and wouldn't go near it and complain about hearing noises from it to his parents. One day, his older brother and a friend locked the boy in the closet. The kid was kicking and screaming, trying to get out, but then he went silent. The brother opened the door and the boy was gone. There was nowhere for him to escape the closet though. They revealed that this was the true story for the episode. Story 10. The disappearance of Frederick Valentich, an Australian pilot who was flying from Melbourne who disappeared without a trace. He reported that a giant metal circular object was hovering above his plane, and air traffic control told him there was no other traffic on that route. Radio cut out after a loud metal screeching sound and he was never seen again. The Australian government scrapped the documents of the event and the radio recording after it was accidentally aired on public radio. They told Frederick's father that they will allow him to see his son's body on the basis that he never tells anyone about what happened, and the media made up a fake story that the guy was obsessed with aliens, thus taking away his credibility for what he reported. Story 11. The Dancing Plague of 1518. The gist of the story is that in the modern era, an unknown woman entered a village and started dancing in front of the residents of the village with no music backing her. She just suddenly started dancing. Days passed and she was still going. Other people join her and dance along with her. Some even die of exhaustion. To this day, it is still unknown what caused people to do this, and that really freaks me out. Story 12. Andrew Gosden. The boy simply left his house, withdrew £200 from a bank account, took a one-way ticket to London and simply vanished. It is especially weird, since he never skipped school. He had 100% attendance there. Also, it seemed he went to London to watch a concert from a band he was a big fan of. Also, he didn't take an electronic charger for his PSP, which suggests that he probably didn't expect to be gone for too long. My personal theory is that he met some creepy guy online or in person who probably used his love for the band to lure him to London, probably said something like, "Don't worry about a return ticket, I will take you back home." Story 13, one of the recent plane crashes or disappearances in the Pacific with no survivors, or no survivors found, I don't know. At some point, someone got a text from a survivor. Let's call him Bob because survivor is a weird word to repeat. Bob claimed to have put his phone in his butt. He claimed that he and other survivors were taken by a bunch of men in suits, their faces covered, and brought to some kind of bunker or warehouse where they were being kept in the dark. He sent one text explaining all of this. They tracked the text and it showed up as being somewhere near the crash site, probably on an island. Bob ended the text with basically, "I know I'm gonna die, bye." The text went viral for about 10 minutes and that was the last you heard of Bob. And shortly after, the search was called off. I don't know how true any of it was, if it was a hoax. What happened to the person that received the text? Nothing. Story 14, there's a small town next to where I live, where a little girl named Cherry Mahan disappeared. She got off at her bus stop one evening after school and vanished. No one is really sure what happened to her to this day. We have a rather long trail system running through that town and few others, so the description I read of her and her clothing is always in my mind, and has always had me on the lookout while I'm out rummaging around through the forest. You can read more about her here. There is also a very remote spot where there are at least 100,000 bullet and shell casings on the ground. There are so many that they cover the ground floor for 25 yards. And when you reach down and grab a handful of debris, beneath your feet, all you get is a handful of casings. I have a video I can upload of it if anyone should be interested. Story 15, someone else here posted an episode from the show, Beyond Belief, Fact or Fiction. The creepiest episode I personally hated was about this home caretaker or nurse who was caring for an elderly lady who collected dolls. I believe they were porcelain dolls. Well, she sucked at caring for the lady because for some reason that I don't remember now, she ended up murdering her. So the police are over speaking with the caretaker who seems innocent, and they go over to the doll collection. The lady picks up one of the dolls, pulls the string on the back, and the doll says, "Why did you end my mommy?" I'm getting acid reflux from the creepiness of remembering this. This was revealed as fact. Story 16, back in 1998, I lived on a farm. When I was 10 years old, my parents and I were building our house in the city, so on weekends we would go and paint and fix the place. On the way back, we had to go to the farm and we passed through an open area. No tree, nothing else but a windmill pulling water. Out of the blue, a massive white light blinds everyone in my family. We were in a Ford F-100 single cabin truck, the four of us facing the windshield. The burst of light was followed by a high-pitched noise. My father had to stop and pull over. It was the middle of the night in a rural open area, nothing around us. We heard some noises above the truck and my father said, "Hell no," and hit the gas. The next weekend, on our way back, we slashed a tire in the exact same spot. The white light blinded us and the sound. I've never seen my father scared in his life. We started to hear the high-pitched sound. My father got off and changed the tire with Formula 1 or NASCAR speed and hit the gas ASAP. My brother and I were just terrified as my mother was also out holding the light for him. We were scared F. On top of that, the same night our TV in the farm only managed to get a few channels. We saw real-life footage of a family being kidnapped by aliens during Thanksgiving, and we freaked out. Up to this day, my family has no clue what that sound or the light was. But boy, we remember the fear. Story 17, really late, but here goes. My grandma and granddad told me of something which happened in their village during the 1940s. Apparently in 1942, a German bomb landed in a field outside the village. The next morning, 5 people from the village, about 60 people in total, had gone missing. At first, the police and villagers thought they had been ended by the bomb. However, there was no clothing anywhere near the bomb site. As time went on, their houses were sold and people moved on. All of them were living by themselves and had no relatives. However, in 1947, 2 of the 5 showed up dead in Germany. A car crash had taken the lives of both of them. I tried researching this back in 2015, but couldn't find any credible articles. The only evidence I could find of such a thing was a report of an air raid near the village on the exact day it happened. Story 18, The Mystery of the Sonic Weapon in Cuba. From the linked article in The Guardian, the blaring grinding noise jolted the American diplomat from his bed in a Havana hotel. He moved just a few feet and there was silence. He climbed back into bed. Inexplicably, the agonizing sound hit him again. It was as if he'd walked through some invisible wall, cutting straight through his room. Soon came the hearing loss and the speech problems, symptoms both similar and altogether different from others, among at least 21 US victims in an astonishing international mystery still unfolding in Cuba. The top US diplomat has called them health attacks. Basically, some sort of sonic weapon was used either to attack or spy on American and later Canadian diplomats in Cuba. No party was officially identified as the culprit yet. Story 19, here's one. And it's a personal one too. There are strange noises in the sky. They happen all across the world. At first I was a little weirded out because when I ran downstairs and outside, they always stopped and nobody else nearby heard them. To me, they sound a bit like a massive sky whale or something. They sound like whale sounds. Some people call it a loud groaning or scraping. Governments have tried to explain them in a variety of ways, but those have all been proved to be lies. It wasn't an assumption, it was a statement. In fact, while scientists have been able to disprove what governments have claimed, they haven't been able to find out what's causing them. There's videos all across the internet with recordings of it. It's not construction because people have heard it out in the middle of nowhere. Ice shelves scraping together wouldn't make sense because they've heard it on the equator. Earthquake-like stuff is also a no, because I live in an area where earthquakes are impossible, and I've heard it. Story 20, Patricia Mahan. She literally had a car accident and just walked away and was never seen again. It's one of those cases where there isn't much information about it, which is annoying, but also makes it incredibly creepy. Angela Hammond is another one. She was at a payphone talking to her boyfriend. A man shoved her into his truck and her boyfriend rushed over to the payphone she was at and chased them. His truck died in the middle of the chase. What's sad is that her family still talks about her on Facebook. The boyfriend has since moved on and has a big family now, but it's all just so sad. He still comments on her missing page. She was pregnant by him at the time. They had their life planned out. I can't imagine that. Maura Murray is another one that bothers me. Elisa Lam, of course. Story 21. When I was at school, I mentioned to my sociology teacher about a dream I used to have as a kid. I would wake up randomly in the middle of the night and see a man in dress clothing sporting a top hat and cane. He had the most terrifying smile. My teacher couldn't believe what I was telling her, as I was supposedly the fourth kid who had told her that in her few years of teaching, including her daughter. Pretty freaky. Story 22, she was reported as missing, and the hotel that housed her during her vacation, the Cecil, had found some security footage of her. She was in an elevator peeking out and acting scared, and she frantically pressed all the buttons she could, but the doors would not close. She walked out, and the second she did, the doors closed. It could have been a slow elevator, but if so, that takes the cake for the slowest elevator close time ever. Her body was found in a reservoir at the hotel after people had complained about the quality of the water they were drinking. Turns out her body was decaying and mixing with the water, if I remember correctly. The creepiest thing is probably that the water reservoir she was in was locked from the outside, and there was only one key in existence, and the manager or janitor, I forget, had the key with him the entire time. I'm from Vancouver, where she was from, and I remember it being a very covered local story. Another creepy thing is that the Cecil Hotel also housed the infamous Night Stalker serial assassin. Don't stay at the Cecil F. that place. Story 23, the Voynich manuscript. Some Polish antique book merchants found this book in an Italian monastery about 130 years ago. To this date, no one has been able to interpret the language the book is written in. The book is full of elaborate and bizarre illustrations, and seems to cover a number of scientific subjects. Several academic and military code breakers have had a go at it, with no luck. It is now stored at an American university library. It was a long thought that the book might be a hoax, but it has now been carbon dated to around 1500 AD, at a time when many thinkers, example Da Vinci, were known to write in code to secure their ideas. No manuscript has proved this hard to decipher, and author, meaning, and purpose remain unknown. The manuscript is fully scanned and available online. Story 24, Dyatlov Pass. Incident. The Dyatlov Pass incident refers to the unsolved deaths of 9 ski hikers in the northern Ural Mountains in the Soviet Union, now Russia, between the 1st of February and the 2nd of February, 1959. The area in which the incident took place was named Dyatlov Pass, in honor of the group's leader, Igor Dyatlov. The experienced trekking group, who were all from the Ural Polytechnical Institute, had established a camp on the slopes of Holatsiakul when disaster struck. During the night, something caused them to tear their way out of their tents and to flee the campsite while inadequately dressed during a heavy snowfall in sub-zero temperature. After the discovery of the group's bodies, Soviet Union investigators determined that 6 victims died from hypothermia and that the 3 others showed signs of physical trauma. One victim had a fractured skull, another had brain damage but no sign of an injured skull. Additionally, the tongue and eyes of a team member were missing. The investigation concluded that an unknown compelling force had caused the deaths. Several explanations have been put forward as to the cause of the deaths. They include an animal attack, hypothermia, an avalanche, infrasound-induced panic, military involvement, or some combination of these. Access to the region was closed to expeditions and hikers for 3 years after the incident. Story 25, personal story. I live in SoCal and went to smoke weed in the hilltops where we can see the city lights. Out of nowhere, me, my GF, and 2 friends see the whole sky turn neon green and disappear. This whole process takes about like 3 to 5 seconds. No sounds, no planes, nothing to explain the source of the green light. I've smoked at this hilltop before, and it takes about 10 minutes to walk on this public trail that's pretty far from any residence. A couple minutes after the green light disappeared, cops showed up, which I've never seen before on that trail in my life. I smoked there quite a bit. They kicked us out for trespassing and said they got a noise complaint. I had weed on me, so I didn't question the police, dipped from that area, and still question what I saw that night, about 5 to 6 years ago. Story 26, the possibility that Jack the Ripper and A.H. Holmes were the same person. It would be like finding out murder. Batman and Murder Superman were the same super murderer. A.H. Holmes was in London at the time of the murders, possessed all the necessary skills, and fit the detective's deductions that he would be a surgeon or medical student. After he left England, the murders stopped and Jack the Ripper was never seen again. Back in Chicago, H.H. Holmes built his murder hotel to turn almost every bedroom in his hotel into an efficient ending chamber. He had gas lines lit into the room so he could asphyxiate guests. He would also lock them up in soundproof vaults and let them starve to death. He'd surgically remove the skeletons of his victims and sell them as medical props to medical schools for extra money. He also ended people for insurance scams. Of course, that's where the theory falls down. H.H. Holmes seemed to always end for monetary gain, while Jack the Ripper seemed to do it in order to create sadistic and gory art projects. Still though, imagine if we found out it were true. Story 27, in 1994, it rained blobs of white cells over a small Washington town. Those who were exposed to the blobs got sick shortly after the episode. I don't think they ever solved what the blobs were, though some theories range from waste from an airplane, except FAA regulations require waste to be dyed blue and it's a violation to dump mid-flight, to an Air Force experiment that blew up a bunch of jellyfish outside of the town, though the Air Force denied this. The reason why waste was first thought is because the blobs had 2 kinds of bacteria, and one of the bacteria is common in the human digestive system, but it also had the eukaryotic cell, which meant it was alive at one point. Some in the town think it was a government experiment, maybe for biological warfare? I don't know. I wouldn't say it keeps me up at night, but it is kind of a fascinating story. I'm inclined to believe the jellyfish theory.